Hello and welcome to the Mal and Johnny Show. Now, then, the thing about my career and Johnny's career is that we've had to work in various different fields. And it takes a little while to gauge your audience or to know beforehand what type of show you should put on. And this is your idea, Johnny, isn't it? You texted me a little bit earlier. You said you've been doing nighttime shows and early morning
Yeah,
shows.
you early morning shows. Don't know. I mean, what's your thoughts? I mean, different kind of music, different kind of chat. What is it? A totally different approach or the same? Who knows?
Well, you're right. You know, they are very different types of audience at different times of the day. If you're thinking about radio, we'll come back to the shows in a minute. But,
Yeah,
if you're on the morning, people are rushing around. They want to be woken up. They want to have something bright. They want little links. They just want you to say, and the news this morning, da 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 da, ba da da da, onto the next record. And you've got to be
yeah,
bright. And it was a guy called Gus Dudgeon, who was a music
yeah.
producer. He produced Elton and he produced Gus. He produced David Bowie. But he said, Mal, when you sing, smile. He said, you can tell the difference if you sing smiling or not smiling. And it's
Well, that's
funny because
right.
your voice just changes. If you talk
It
like
does.
that, it
So
don't.
for the most different, isn't it?
Yeah, if you talk like, if you've got your mouth down like that, you're not smiling, and
Yeah, yeah.
you can sort of tell. So early mornings, nice, sharp, quick. There we are. On to the
And
next thing.
smile.
Evenings, night times, people have got more time. Some of them are in bed. The last thing they want is to be, well, unless it's a Friday night, maybe they want a bit of a party, but they just want to be talked to. And it means you can develop a conversation a lot more because people
Yeah,
seem to have a bit more time in the nights. There's lots of things you can do in the night. But if they've chosen
yeah,
to listen to you on the radio, they've done it for a reason. So you've got people working night shifts, you've got nurses and doctors, emergency services, people delivering stuff. And then you get a chance to develop that. So it takes time. The
yeah,
music isn't quite so frenetic and
yeah.
you can talk longer. So I
Do
think
you know
that's
what? Do you know what I miss? I mean, Don Black used to have a program, and he always played all the old standards, your Sinatras and Tony Bennett's and so on. And that was great. And I mean, there's an audience out there for that kind of easy listening. But it was late at night, obviously. I think it was 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock on a Sunday. And I'm just wondering why nobody does that kind of program anymore. They canceled his show, and that was it.
yeah, it is funny. I mean, a lot of it's not down to the broadcaster or the audience. It's
It
down
was the
to
producer
exactly the
who's
people who.
who's 26.
Exactly. I want you to pay 130 beats per minute and the newest thing that nobody wants to hear. But that's two old men talking, John. That's
I
two
know,
old
I
men
know. But
talking.
there are a lot of old men out there listening to the radio. You see.
Yeah, yeah. What about then, shows? Because you did, and I suppose that's experience, isn't it? You do lots of different types of shows. You
Yeah,
get to work out who and what the audience is pretty quickly. Because once you've made
yeah.
a mistake once, you don't want to make that mistake again.
That's right. I mean, for instance, different nationalities. If you work into Americans, they've got a different attitude altogether. I mean, an American audience, they're tap dancing, they'll clap a step. They won't wait till the end. They'll see a good step. They go, yeah, and they'll clap it. See, they get involved and very enthusiastic. Whereas over here, they'll go, let me entertain me. And then when at the end, if they like you, they clap. But material wise, I've always tended to do like an international type of act. So people will know the impression of Sammy Davis Jr. if they're in Aberdeen or if they're in like Los Angeles.
Mhm.
So I've tried to keep that universal feel.
I remember, because obviously, if you're a singer songwriter and you're writing these passionate songs, you
Yeah.
want people to listen to you. But I
Yeah.
soon found out it has to be the right environment. Now, then, if somebody books you for a party, or if somebody books you for a bar mitzvah, or I used to when I went to London after university, I was just trying to make a living. I started working in wine bars and restaurants.
Right. Yeah.
There was no point in the world in me singing my latest heartbroken song. What they wanted was Billy Joel, Elton John, and Neil
That's
Diamond.
right.
Um,
Yeah.
but it's hard, isn't it? Because I know what I wanted to do, but
Yeah.
actually the job that I was being employed to wasn't about me. It was about the audience. I mean, it really wasn't that much different to being a waiter or the chef or the maitre d'. I was there to provide a service.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
wasn't about me. Have you ever had to come to terms with that, particularly when you were putting your
Well,
records out in
I
the
think,
60s and
yeah.
70s?
And also in the clubs, you used to get, they dance to anything, they dance to a juggler. You know what I mean? Whatever you sang, they got up and danced to it. They're not listening to your lyric.
Yeah.
I remember one comedian went on once, and he did his joke, and it died, and he said, "You can dance to these jokes if you like." Yeah, that's right. If it's like a party, or you gotta judge the time you go on as well. If you go on after they've eaten and they've drunk and they're ready to dance about, they're not going to listen. You
Yeah.
got to time it so they've just eaten their food, they're on their coffee. That's the time to go on.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah,
Because
I
I
think we
used to do
yeah,
that
get
on the
going.
ships. It was the same. They used to put me on too late. They're too tired on the ships. You know, certain they want to go to bed, get up no more. So I said, well, stick me on at cocktail hour. That's a good time. They've had a cocktail. They're going into dinner, and they're still fresh. You know.
Yeah.
Sorry, what were you going to say then?
No, I was going to say we were the same with weddings because we quickly learned when we started doing the clubs. I'd never done the clubs before. We had the band, and you realised you can't give them a moment to think. It has to be the next song, the next song, the next song, the next song. Because once you lose the dance floor, getting them back up on the dance floor is tough. So we learned those lessons. We learned them pretty well by the end. I mean, the show used to run, like clockwork. All the links were there, all the bits of music in between, it'd be 45, 50 minutes, and then the second half be an hour and 15. But then we'd be booked to do weddings. And obviously, for the person whose wedding it is, it's either their first or second wedding. They haven't done lots of them, but we've done lots of them. So I used to say, look, will you trust me? There's a golden moment at which the band should go on. If we go too early, they won't be interested. If we go too late, we'll have lost them. I said, there's a golden moment, and I will be looking for that golden moment. And when I say it's the golden moment, can we then go? And usually people would trust me. Usually.
Yeah.
Occasionally they wouldn't. And it would be really hard work then.
Well, it is, yeah.
To rescue them day and night. They wanted the best night, but they thought, that they knew how it worked. And actually, when you've done as many gigs as you have, or as I have, you've probably learned from your mistakes what doesn't work.
Well, it's the timing of it, isn't it? You've got to go on the right, as you say, the right time when they're ready for it. Not when they've had too much to drink, or not before they've had their dinner. It's about that. It's about the timing.
What about material? How about choosing your material for an audience? Was that always difficult, or did you do the same show?
I usually, what I like the other night, I did a gig, and I started off, and I'm So Excited, which is quite a up-tempo thing. Then I realized the audience are a bit older than normal in this audience. So I thought, hang on, they're not into rock and roll. Well, they might be into rock and roll, but they won't be into this modern type of beat music. So I thought, right, I'll do a standard. So I did Sweet Georgia Brown. And straight away, I could see their eyes were up there. They were looking. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yes.
It's as you say, it's horses for courses. You have to. And then I thought, well, they're going to like a bit of sing along stuff at the end of this. So I did a bit of a Frankie Vaughan medley. Hello Dolly. And they were all singing along with me. Now I wouldn't do that if I was in a nightclub. They'd say, "What's he doing?" You know what I mean?
Yeah. And the other thing is, and I had to learn this, that when if people come for a party, they come for a party. You're the party band.
Yeah.
People have bought tickets in a theatre.
They've come to see you. And
they actually want the stories and the songs and your songs because they've actually paid money to see it. And that's quite hard, after we'd done all the club things and the party things, I was always tempted to put a pile of covers in. And actually, that audience didn't want it. They wanted, the soulful songs, the songs that meant something to me, that had a story to them, that I could share that story with them.
Yeah.
And it's you're never too old to learn.
It's like doing stuff. Like a lot of artists go on stage and they want to plug their new record or their new album. And if you do something that's brand new, people have never heard it before. They're not going to jump around and say, "Oh, that's fantastic." They got to hear it a few times. So I remember doing this thing when I was in Belgium, and I wanted to do my record I had to sing about 4 or 5 songs. I wanted to do my record. And it was brand new, so nobody knew it So Huey Green, who was with us at the time, he said, "No," he said, "you got to do Delilah." I said, "What for?" He said, "Because they'll know Delilah." He said, "I remember seeing Gracie Fields, and the first time she sang Sally, nobody listened." He said, "You got to grab them. And if you want to grab them, you got to give them what they want."
Yeah.
You can slip one in now and again just to give it a bit of, but these people who get self-indulgent and do like 6 new songs, forget it. You're going to lose your audience.
But then you see, then there's the artist. Now, I went to see Bob Dylan at Hyde Park, right? It was a couple of years ago, and it was sold out, obviously, And the artist before him was Neil Young. So Neil Young did all of his hits exactly like the records.
Right.
I mean, almost, like a perfect copy of the records. Bob Dylan doesn't give a monkeys. So he came out and literally every song he'd be there going,
Yeah.
I do know this one. I do know what song is this? Oh, this is, the answer my friend is blowing, Mr. Tambourine Man. I was like, that's what it is. Van Morrison has a habit of performing with his back to the audience.
Oh yeah, Mr. Happy, Van
Mr.
Morrison.
Happy, so he just he doesn't. But I suppose they've earned the right to treat their audience with disrespect. Is that fair? You
shouldn't do it. You should do it because your audience. Without your audience, where are you? That's it. It's like you get artists that become big stars. I know quite a few who do this, but I won't mention any names. They don't want to sign autographs. I don't want to. Well, I'm sorry. Without those people coming up, can I have your autograph? They wouldn't be where they are.
No.
So you got to respect your audience. Otherwise, what's the point? You're in show business. You are there to entertain those people, not to entertain yourself. Be self-indulgent.
Do people sometimes then, some artists forget that they actually are in show business? That it becomes.
Well, I don't know what it is. I don't understand this. I'm not speaking of show. Do you remember Orville and
oh yes, Keith Harrison Orville.
Keith Harrison. Well, I worked with Keith, and he's a nice bloke, and he made it big with Orville, but he couldn't get over the fact that before that he did an act with a monkey, which is a bit near and that's the act he liked, and he resented this duck because he'd made it with this duck, and he said, I'm a kid's entertainer now. I don't want to be a kid's entertainer. I said, go with the flow. You're a big star now, Keith. Do you know what I mean?
I know how he feels, Fireman Sam. I know. I go with the flow. And I suppose,
I'll give you another one.
Go on.
What's his name? David Jason was in my house, okay?
Yeah.
Because I knew him and I always know him very well. And he came here with his girlfriend, Emma Vanry. And my little girl was about 6 or 7 in those days. I mean, she's 30 now, right? She's 6 or 7. And she had a little friend with her. So my daughter said, do you know who this is, to her friend? And she said, yeah, it's Del Boy. He went, and Frost. The kid didn't know what the hell he was talking about. He wanted to be recognized for other stuff, which I can understand.
Of course you can understand it.
But don't knock Del Boy. Without Del Boy, you wouldn't have made Frost.
I remember going back to university, and all the people I'd been to university with had been like in the Treasury and all these big companies. One by one over the weekend, they came and said, "Did you really sing Fireman Sam?" And although I was quite pleased that they knew I'd done something, I went away thinking, is that all my life's worth?
Well, I'm Marco forever now.
You are Marco from the I can't have
I've been to Monte Carlo, I've been to the Palladium, but I'm Marco. Just get yourself straight.
Hurry up. Was it Stacey? We've got 6 Elvises here who all want a cappuccino.
That's right. People shouted from the roof, and I think, what have I done? Ted Rogers, used to do 3-2-1. He was a very good stand-up comedian. That's what he was. And he had a writer, and he used to do all the one-liners, and he'd have the stuff from the daily paper, and he was terrific. People didn't know he did that. They thought he was a 3-2-1. That was it.
Yeah, well, Ringo Starr. He was Thomas the Tank Engine, wasn't he? Apparently he played drums as well for some.
He played drums once. Oh, again.
Okay, so are you still learning? I mean, you learned some lessons the other day, as you said. You could see from
you adjust. You know what to do. You adjust. If you go and you got a bunch of people, you're playing your band, and you see they're older, you're not going to play up-tempo stuff. They're going to kill themselves. You're going to do what they want. You know what I mean? But see, where we go wrong, if you look at an old audience, when you say old, even if they're up to 80s, they were around when Elvis was about.
Yeah.
So they like rock and roll.
People in the 70s grew up with the Beatles and with the Rolling Stones. People in the 60s had the T-Rex,
Yeah.
Wizard and all that. So they
don't give them Billy Vanilli, but they could get.
All right. Well, look, it's good to know that we're still learning, but we're still adjusting to and I think we've adjusted to our audience. We know our audience, don't we? Here, the Mal and Johnny podcast.
We do. I love my audience. I'll sign anybody's autograph.
Absolutely. Oh, brilliant stuff. All right. Well, it was just a bit of a chat this afternoon. You've been listening to the Mal and Johnny Show. So it's goodbye from him.
And it's goodbye from you.
Cheerio.
Ta-da, Mal. See you later.